So why is reading important? It's something we all want to do. We all sort of, on some level, realize that we need to read more. However, we just can't get around to doing it. Now, in this video, what I want to do is I want to share some of the benefits of reading and then also highlight some of the reasons as to why we just can't get around to reading. Let's start with the obvious, right? We know reading benefits the brain. It helps us develop our cognitive abilities, if you like. It allows us to learn many things. What's really interesting is that there are some studies that have highlighted or show the process that takes place when one is reading. Now, initially, when you open a book, right? When you open a book and you look at the page, the brain interprets that as an image. It sees it as just squiggles of ink on paper. But very quickly, that information is passed on to another part of the brain, which is referred to as the letterbox. Now, in this part of the brain, these squiggles and lines are deciphered to be, or are reinterpreted and seen as letters. And then this is shuttled to the frontal cortex, the frontal part of the brain itself, where now these words and these letters that make these words are deciphered further and meaning is extracted from them. And all of this is happening very, very quickly. Now, it's amazing how many processes are taking place, subhanAllah, in our brains so quickly, rapidly, for us to be able to read. Now, what's even more interesting is that the part of the brain that's activated in regular readers is the part of the brain which is also associated with memory and emotional regulation. This is probably why, although I don't think there's any clear studies which highlight this right now, but this is probably why, you know, anecdotally at least, we can see that those that read, especially in their later years as they get older, don't seem to develop conditions such as Alzheimer's or dementia. I mean, I know of some professors that are in their 80s and their 90s and they are sharper than most 20-year-olds. So reading definitely benefits memory, allows us to stay sharp, more cognizant in our later years. But on top of this, it also seems to help with our emotional status, if you like. Reading prevents in many cases depression, anxiety, and so on and so forth. Now, we can look at this from a purely scientific perspective, but I think even just upon reflection, what we can appreciate is that when you read, you're occupying your mind. You're using your rational faculties, these God-given faculties. And as you engage them, you learn more. You're able to go to places that just physically isn't possible. I mean, you can see reading as a time machine. When you read, reading can take you, it can transport you to the past. It can take you thousands of years back. You know, it allows you to get into the mind of someone else. It allows you to be able to appreciate the way these people thought. It allows you to visit places you haven't physically gone to. I once heard this very interesting line where I think it was in a movie, although, you know, the irony here, right? We're not trying to promote movies, but I think it was in a movie where one of the characters said that, you know, fly on the wings of words. And I thought that was very profound, because when you read, you can travel to places that you just haven't ever been to before. You may never be able to go to. Now, all of this, I mean, if you're being occupied and stimulated in such a way, obviously this is going to help you not fall into depression and anxiety and so on and so forth. Another very powerful benefit of reading is that it helps you refine your rational faculties. It helps you develop logic. And this happens because when you're reading another person. And as you're reading that person inevitably is going to make arguments, right, throughout their work. And as they're arguing and as they're presenting their reasoning, we can analyze it. When you read them, you can analyze the way they're coming to their conclusions. You can see the steps. Now, this is something we can learn from, but also over time, you can start to pick out the fallacies. You can start to see, okay, this is an unnecessary jump the author makes. There is no correlation here. And this will, in the long term, help you develop, you know, your faculty, your logical faculties, your ability to process information in a way you would never be able to if you didn't read. Reading also helps you articulate yourself far better, right? It's very powerful, and this happens very quickly. You pick up a lot of vocabulary that you didn't know before, but just reading regularly allows you to articulate yourself in a way that, again, you wouldn't be able to if you hadn't picked up the habit of reading. And articulating yourself well in this world is essential. You know, this is the primary mode of communication for human beings, speech. Now, if you're able to conduct your speech in a very profound and solid way, that's going to go a long way in benefiting your life. One more benefit of reading that I want to highlight, and I think it's the most important. However, it's the one that's not really spoken about, that's not really discussed, that's not really emphasized, and that is that, sure, reading is going to help you process information, it's going to help you learn new things, it's going to help you gain vocabulary, it's going to help you with all of these other things. But the way people read prior to, if you like, the past couple of centuries was in a way to benefit from the information. Now, if you're reading a good book, now there's many bad books out there, but if you're reading something solid, or you're reading something that's dense with useful information, life-changing information, we should approach it also from the perspective of extracting that information and implementing it into our own lives. That's going to change you. That's going to change who you are. That's going to change how you function in this world. That in itself is going to make your life so much more meaningful. And if we're talking about useful books, the greatest book anyone could read, although most people aren't aware of it, is the Quran itself. Because what differentiates the Quran from all other books, and it's obvious, is that all other books are the works of men. But the Quran is revelation from God. And it's revelation that's there to help facilitate your life, to guide you. Hence, we should have a regular relationship with the Quran. And on this note, there is a very beautiful app that I was blessed to be a part of as far as the development of the app was concerned to a degree. It's called Quranly. If you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. I'll link in the description box below. It's an app that's specifically designed to help you develop a regular relationship with the Quran. And that's going to change your life in and of itself. So definitely check that out. The link is in the description below. So read to extract information, at least from those books that are useful in this way, to extract the information and implement it into your own lives. And that will change your life. So we've discussed all these amazing benefits of reading. Then why don't we read? I'm sure you were aware of some of these benefits already, but why don't we then read? We have books sitting on our shelves and we just don't pick them up. We tell ourselves, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a couple of days, but months go by and we just don't read. Now, I believe there's one fundamental reason behind this, especially in our age, in our times. And that is the advent of social media, digital information. And what we do is we convince ourselves, or we like to believe, that this digital information that's out there is the equivalent of reading. And what this does now, this acts as an additional barrier because, well, there's no need. There's no need to pick up a book and read it. When in reality, digital information it's superficial information, right? It skims the surface. Now, this may give you your sort of fix for gaining or wanting to gain more knowledge temporarily, but it's not really benefiting you because you're only being introduced to a subject, a superficial understanding of a subject. If you really want to understand something, you have to read. So just clarifying this for ourselves and understanding that most of digital information that's out there, whether it's in the form of videos, YouTube videos, even documentaries to a great extent, or any other type that's out there, that's only giving you a superficial understanding of a subject. If you really want to understand something, you have to read. You have to read about that subject. You have to read several books about that particular subject. Now, if we differentiate that for ourselves, then again, it starts to create the need to read. And that's exactly what we want. We want to be able to find the encouragement and the motivation that we need to pick up a book and read it. And that being said, look, I'm not saying go cold turkey on digital information. Absolutely not. I use it myself, but use it in the right way. For me, what I've noticed is if I want to get into a subject, what I initially do is I would watch several videos on that subject, several documentaries if they're available on that subject. And I'll get myself acquainted with the sort of overall bird's eye perspective on a particular subject. And then I would dive into the books on that subject. And what I've noticed by doing this is that at the end of the day, you end up far more rounded. And it's far easier when you initially start reading books on a particular subject to really get into it and grapple with the topic. So use digital information sparingly, or digital sources of knowledge sparingly, and understand their role as far as your studies are concerned. The last point I want to sort of make on as far as digital information is concerned, or social media, is that it's wired us in a particular way. You know, we've gotten used to the release of dopamine in our systems from this superficial information which is coming in quickly and rapidly. And we're so accustomed to this, we're so desensitized now, that it's very hard. When you pick up a book, it's a chore, it's labor, it's painful. It's painful, right? You read half a page and you're tired, because reading it takes a lot of energy. It's something that requires a lot of brain power, if you like, to engage, especially if you haven't been doing it for a long time. Now, the solution to this is, well, keep reading, right? Pick up on a subject that you're interested in and just read. Start with like half a page a day, go to a page a day, then a couple of pages. And before you know it, you're going to start to appreciate the benefits of reading over consuming information on social media. And when you taste it for yourself, you're going to be hooked. So especially for Muslims, it's important. We just don't read enough. We just don't read enough. And we should be reading a lot more. Obviously, starting with the Quran, the Islamic tradition itself. Build your base from that perspective, and then carry on reading and read extensively. Read the works of different authors. Not that you have to agree with everything. Absolutely not. That's not the point of reading. Read and engage the author. Debate the author as you're reading. But read a lot more, because that's going to help you articulate yourself. That's going to make your life far more meaningful. It's going to broaden your perspectives. It's going to allow you to engage with people, and even from a dawah perspective. When you read extensively and you read the works of specific cultures and nations, etc., you're able to relate to people in a far more profound way than you would be able to if you hadn't, broadened your horizons from the perspective of reading. So read more, inshallah, and you're going to see, inshallah, the benefits of this in your own lives, first and foremost, and then you're going to see how this is going to profoundly affect your life and your engagement with others. I'll leave you guys with this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, take care. Assalamu alaikum.